thought for the day. The way to develop self-confidence is to do the thing you fear most and get a record of successful experiences behind you.
Welcome to 7 Minutes for Yourself. I'm Christina Aina, and I'm so glad you've joined me for what I believe will be 7 of the most enriching minutes of your day. Let's take this time to reconnect with ourselves and improve our well-being.
In today's episode of 7 Minutes for Yourself, we cover 3 powerful tips to improve your self-confidence and self-esteem. Have a listen.
Okay, so the number one tip that I have for you is to know your strengths and your weaknesses. So I don't care who you are, what part of the world you're from, what kind of life experiences you have, you are great at something. And at the same time, you're not so great at other things. So what your job is to recognize and identify those strengths and those weaknesses, whether it's 1 or 2 strengths and a list of weaknesses or a list of strengths and a few weaknesses. Just figure out what they are. By figuring out what your strengths and your weaknesses are, what you're able to do is you become more self-aware. So why is that important? That is important because when you are more self-aware, you know what you need to improve on and you know what you're already great at. When you know what you're already great at, you play on those strengths. And when you know what you're not so great at, you work on those weaknesses. So there's so many types of strengths that you might have. For example, you might be someone that's very funny and you're really good at making people laugh. Or you have great communication skills. Or you're great at problem solving. Or you're just a very artistic person. Some type of weaknesses that you might have, if you're like me, is probably things like math. You might not be so good at numbers. Numbers just might not make sense in your head. Or another weakness you might recognize is that you're just overly emotional. So now let's go back to some of the strengths that we talked about. Say for example, you figured out, hey, I'm a very funny person. I make a lot of people laugh. Start doing more of that. Anytime you talk to someone, use that to your advantage. If you have a weakness like you're very emotional, recognize it. I, for one, am very emotional. So what I like to do is anytime something upsets me, I like to just take a deep breath, relax, and just look at things from far away for a second. Now, by recognizing your strengths and your weaknesses, what you are doing is you're building your self-confidence. Let me tell you how. So say you figured out that one of your strengths is making people laugh and one of your weaknesses is that you're not so great at math. So if one day somebody tells you, hey, you know what? You're not so great at math. What you can say is, you know what? I know, I'm not that great at math. I'm working on it, but I'm great at making people laugh. Do you see how that alone extrudes so much confidence? Okay, so tip number 2 that I have for you is to look presentable. So now this can be something so small as just brushing your hair, putting on a little bit of makeup, wearing nice clothes, and keeping your chin up and your back straight. So when you look good on the outside, you naturally start to feel a little bit better on the inside because you know that you're bringing your best physical self forward. So next time you have a presentation or you know that you'll be around a group of people, make sure you dress your best because that alone will help you with your self-confidence. Sometimes it's just those little things that make a world of a difference. So now, tip number 3 that I have for you is to help others. Helping others is a great way to skyrocket your self-esteem because when you help someone else, you're sending out that energy and that energy reverses back and comes back onto you. As a result, you feel very valuable and you feel like, you know what? I've done something good in my life or I've done something good for someone else. I'm a good person. That alone can help you boost your self-esteem. So when we talk about helping other people, it can be the smallest little thing. So for example, helping an elderly cross the street or just donating to your favorite charity. So when you do things like that, you should feel very proud of yourself. And of course, that ties back to your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and your self-love. This is basically the same concept as when you give somebody a gift. You've noticed that when you give someone a gift, you are more excited about them opening it than they are. So, exact same thing. That's the same energy you're pushing off to someone that comes back onto you.
That concludes today's episode of 7 Minutes for Yourself. Please take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. Today and every day with your kiddo is a gift. Enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in.